Literally, you remember all those conversations we had? Nothing, zero leads, zero. We went months without a meeting. Like I went from one side of like burnt out, done, hopeless. All it took was doing this, planning the vision, actually taking what's in here, putting it on paper, and figuring it out. Welcome back to a brand new episode of the 8-Figure Agency Show, where a successful entrepreneur and a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur help you build an 8-figure agency by documenting our successes and our failures. And by the time you guys are watching this episode, it is officially the first week, I believe, of 2023. So happy New Year to all of you guys watching and listening. We're excited to get into the new year with all of you guys. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Gary.
Yeah, absolutely. So today we're going to actually share you how we're going to grow. We're going to 100x our podcast this year. That's our goal. And you might be thinking, well, how are you going to do that? Well, that's what we're going to share with you today. But before we jump into that, I want to kind of share you the journey of this podcast. So Derrik reached out to me one day and said, hey, let's create a podcast where I can ask you questions, because we were talking all the time, right? So he's like, Gary, how are you doing this in your agency? How are you doing this? And so he said, let's do a podcast together. You can get good content out of it. I'll get some advice out of it. And then what we've realized is we're starting to help people. So we've had a bunch of people reach out to us and say, this podcast is really helping me with my agency journey. So now we're going to take it a lot more serious. And I'll be totally honest, I don't take this podcast as serious as I probably should.
Yeah,
and meaning,
same.
and what I mean by that is I just show up to it, right? So I'm just like, hey, what are we going to talk about today? And so Derrik and I just had a 20-minute meeting. We just went over, okay, how are we going to actually tactically attack this next year? And we're going to share some of those things with you this year. And then also I'm going to share a little bit about my agency, what we have been doing to plan for 2023, how we plan, and how you can take advantage of that next year and start to plan a little bit more in advance. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, what I feel like is I lack in the skill to plan ahead. I kind of wing it a little bit because I'm able to. I have the personality. I can talk my way through things. So that's not great for an agency as you grow. And so it really takes dedication and planning to slow down and plan. And I'm going to give you some of the frameworks on how to do that today. Absolutely.
I'm fired up for this episode because this is huge. And real quick before we kind of dive into what we're going to do with this show, ditto. I've also it's become a thing where we both literally like Monday morning, which is typically when we film, we're like, Gary, here's an idea. Gary's like, I like it, or like, I don't like it. Let's try this. And then we just riff on it, and it works. But we both don't feel like providing enough value to you, whoever's watching and listening right now. And our goal is to change that, because if we want 100x our listenership, which just means tactically putting a number to it, getting to 10,000 plus across all channels for every episode we put out there, that's huge. If we can help 10,000 people start and grow their agency, I will be very, very happy. Like, truthfully, awesome. that would be amazing, hugely amazing. And we'll explain how we're going to do that. But for those of you who didn't listen or watch the last episode, before you finish this one, you might want to go there, because in that episode, I got really vulnerable and honest about the state that I was in. And Gary, basically what we came to the conclusion, I was like, it seems like I was experiencing some burnout. And I kind of don't think I was burnt out. I think it was more so I had the things that I knew I needed to do, but I didn't even know how to start or where to go with it. So what I've done, and I can't even take credit for this, it's truly Stella. And if you guys don't know who that is, you can watch this episode right here. She has been a tremendous help. She has just really tremendous help. She has helped me start systemizing, start actually tracking KPIs, start actually making consistent one-on-ones with my team, and basically take everything that I've had in here, all these ideas, all this planning, put it on paper into a manageable way for my team to understand. So I went from feeling burnt out and stuck and not knowing where to go to dedicating basically this entire week to vision and planning for 2023, which Gary, I'm sure we'll get into it, towards the end of this episode.
Yep.
But that was my solution.
I think, Derrik, I think the important thing there, because one of the things that I called out last week was you need the light at the end of the tunnel. And you said, well, you were procrastinating on things because you couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So this problem that you have, Derrik, is actually a who, not a what. And you need to find a who to help you with these things. Now, Stella's helping you right now, but that's your next step.
Yep. I think I know where you're going with that. Rocket fuel, integrator versus visionary, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. That was actually one of the things I wanted to pick up in this episode. I was actually recommended this book by you and Josh Harkis. I know you know him as well. And I got the book. I started reading it. I'm like 50 pages in, and it blew my mind. I have never felt more related to in my entire life than when I read that visionary section. I kid you not, like never. It described me, and I think you're also visionary, if I'm not mistaken. Like it described me to the T.
Yeah.
By the letter.
Yep. Yeah, and then a visionary needs somebody to integrate. You can integrate on a small scale, and the integrator basically pieces everything together. What Stella did for you. Stella is an integrator. She's really good at the internal piecing things together and building a system. And she can take, what's really cool is integrators can take people's visions and execute those. So I have a business partner who's an integrator. He's also a visionary as well. He can toggle between the both, right? But he's really good at what I've explained is I am really good at the top of funnel opportunity creation. He's really good at the opportunity creation internally. So he'll say, Gary, this CRM isn't working anymore. It's slowing us down here, and here, and here. We need to move over to this new system, and here's how it's going to help fix that problem. Then the other integrator that I have, Derrik, is Eve. Eve is actually my project manager, and so I kind of present it in a different way. I'm the make it up person, so that's what the visionary does is they make things up out of nothing, and then you need somebody who makes it real. So they have to take whatever you give them and then make it real into the world. That's an integrator. But then you need also someone who makes it recurring, and that's more of a manager.
It's so crazy to me because it took like 7 to 8 months for those words to finally register for me, because you said that same line on like episode 3 of 8Fig back in like June. And I had to go through all these lessons, all these learnings. I had to grow my company. This was actually our biggest revenue month yet. We almost added like 7K in MRR this month. So like things are finally working.
That's like
and Gary,
20% increase, 25% increase.
Huge. It's actually huge. And the thing is, Gary, out of all of those new clients, only one of those was one of my emails. The rest of it was all my team. The only thing I did was close the sale. Like things are actually starting to work. Like I'm so proud of them because we're actually getting these things in place. And finally, it took 8 months of failure, like 8 months of nothing. Literally, you remember all those conversations we had? Yep. Nothing, 0 leads, 0. We went months without a meeting. And then this right now, it all finally is working. But my point with that is, it's got me fired up because, again, last week I was super like down in a rut. I didn't know where to go. And it took me 8 months to understand those words because now I realized exactly like you said, who, not how, not what. Like the book you recommended as well, which I actually also purchased and it's sitting right there on my bookshelf. I need an integrator. It's I need that person. I need an integrator. And also before I get that integrator, I needed to figure out my vision. Yep. I needed to sit down. I needed to plan out what's the goals for 2023. What's the revenue goals? What's the 6-month goal? What's the 12-month goal? Then reverse engineer it. And again, you've been saying this for so long, but I never understood how to do it until I got to this point. I had to go through that burnout. I had to go through that difficulty.
Well, what you were doing is you were trying to do all the things, right? And you have to do that's the part that everybody gets wrong is like, so let's pretend, Derrik, you started day one and you totally got it. And you said, oh, I'm the visionary and I need to hire an integrator. What would your answer have been? I don't have money to hire an integrator, right? Yep. Like I don't have time. Like, and then you have to go through and actually learn each step in your business so that you can actually work with an integrator. So that way you can actually get them to help you in the areas that you need help with. Otherwise, you don't have any idea what you're doing. So all these steps are very, very necessary. There's no wasted motion.
Absolutely. In fact, and that's what it said in the book as well. It basically described that as brute forcing your way. And that hit home for me. It's like up to this point, I've just been able to brute force my way to get to the numbers that I'm at right now. But for me to do this again, to double my business, there's no way that's happening. Like I need to
you can do it. You can do it, but it's very painful, man. So I got to $3 million in ARR brute forcing like this, and it was super stressful all the time.
That's crazy.
And I burnt out. Like it was serious burnout.
That's I truthfully don't think I could probably do it. I could just sell like crazy, but I wouldn't be able to sleep at night, truly, because churn would be so high.
Yeah, no, it was actually my churn was really low because I was doing everything. So I was touching every single account. So I was the account manager on every account up to $3 million. And I was basically sales and account management.
That's crazy. I couldn't do it. But I mean, listen, all in all, Gary, you have truly given me, like, you've been saying this all along and it never registered until now. And like I said, I had to go through this pain. That's awesome. But your advice, your wisdom, combined with your consistency in that wisdom, which is why if you're listening and or watching to this show right now, you should be very grateful for the value that Gary provides. I know I am. Combine that with rocket fuel, that was that catalyst of like, Gary's been saying this all along. And it put it all together. Seriously, like it put it all together for me. And now as I'm planning 2023 and I'm going through all this with Stella's help, I'm like I'm fired up. Like I'm ready.
So let's talk through this and then we're going to talk about how we're going to grow this podcast.
Absolutely.
So let me plan next year for you. So this is what I want you to do next year. So next year, in 2024, when you start planning for 2024, you should be starting in September. So right now or today, I want you to plan your quarterly meeting, and your quarterly meeting is going to be an all-day minimum that you're going to do in September, end of September, beginning of October. And you plan that all out, okay? Now, what you want to do is you want to have some kind of system that you implement by then. So whether it's traction or whether it's some other kind of, there's lots of other ones out there. And some are, they all have strengths and weaknesses. It almost doesn't matter at this point. You just need an operating system that you're going to be tracking your one-on-ones. So or let me back up. You're going to be tracking your goals. So your goal, where are you trying to get to? So I'm just going to make up numbers. You're trying to get to $100,000 a month in MRR. Great. Then from there, now you need to start breaking that into KPIs for each of your departments. How many leads a month do you need to get there? How many sales of the close of those sales, right? So you're going to go, well, we only close half of them. So we need 10 leads a month. Well, that's if you close 100%. So you're not going to close 100%. So now you actually need 20, right? So you need 20 leads because you're only going to close 10. Then from there, you have to factor in churn. What's your churn rate? What was it last year? So you need to actually factor that in to get to your goal because you're gonna churn, right? And then you need to start building that for each department. All of your KPIs, like I need churn below this, I need leads above this, and I need closing ratio above this. And then we get to our goal by the end of the year. Then you're gonna track that every week in your one-on-ones. Each section of your company, you're gonna follow that all the way through to make sure that you can get to where you want to go. So next year, in October, you're going to have new goals. So for 2024, you're going to go, here's what we did last year. Here's what I think we can do next year. And then you're going to have all of Q4, October, November, December. You're going to have all of Q4 to lay the groundwork. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to grow, and you're going to go to your team, and you're going to go, here's our vision. And they're going to go, Derrik, we can't do that because we don't have this information. We can't do that because we don't have this groundwork. We can't do that because we don't have this thing. We don't have this software, whatever. And so what you're going to do is you're going to do it earlier in the year. So that way you have a whole quarter to finish out and be able to say, okay, let's get all the things that you guys need to help us get to these goals.
That's actually so brilliant and makes so much sense because you're basically saying that now the problem I'm going to experience is I'm going to go to my team first thing next week and say, guys, here's how much money we want to do next month because I want a 10x, right? I want a 10x. And they're going to say, hey, that's great, but like we don't have this, we don't have this, we don't have this. And the entire first quarter, maybe even second quarter as well, is going to be me putting those things in place, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like,
That
I'll
makes
just
so
give
much
you an
sense.
example for what we wanted. So we had a CRM, and in that CRM, and this is going to sound stupid, but this is the truth, right? This is so small. In that CRM, when we got an opportunity, when we got a lead and we turned it into an opportunity, it wouldn't actually track it as a lead anymore. It got moved completely to an opportunity. So we can't historically go back to this last year and look at how many leads did we actually get and what was our conversion rate of those leads. We tactically can't do that. So we went to our team and we were like, we needed to get this information, and we couldn't because we switched to a CRM that couldn't do that. And that's why we ended up, part of the reason why we ended up switching to HubSpot, because we were in Salesforce and we were like, okay, we can go pay a developer $150,000, go build all this stuff, probably get a lot of it wrong, go back. Yeah, Salesforce is expensive to hire developers because you can build whatever you want, Derrik, but that's the problem is that you can build whatever you want, right?
Expensive.
So HubSpot comes out of the box and it has the basic things that you already need in it. And so that was just one example, but we had multiple examples of that all the way through the company of things that we just couldn't get clarity on and couldn't get what we needed out of it. So when you go to your team, you're going to say, hey, this is what I want. How do we track this? How do we measure it? Just measuring it is a problem sometimes.
Yeah.
Just measuring it, just getting the analytics. So, and don't, here's my piece of wisdom and advice that I've learned from other people. It doesn't have to be pretty. When you start tracking it, you can track it in a Google spreadsheet. You can track it in anything, but you need to have somewhere that you look at these numbers. If you have to hire a VA, Derrik, that's their only job is to go dig up. Because if your sales team goes, yeah, Derrik, it takes me 3 hours a day to go dig out all these sales numbers, get all the things to get you the information. then just say, you know what? I don't want my valuable salespeople doing that. I'm going to hire a VA to come in and help you get all that data, pull it out so that we can actually start reporting on it. But your team is going to have obstacles, and that's actually good. Do not take your team's obstacles as them trying to stop you. It's them trying to help you along the way. Like, that's really important. Most entrepreneurs hear people who are like, Derrik, how are we going to do that? Or here's a roadblock that I see. They see, because you're a visionary and you're living in the future, they actually see things that you don't see.
No, that's huge. That's huge. One question I would have for you, and then we'll kind of transition in just a minute here, is, and this is probably going to sound like a stupid question, but when I have my meeting, and for those listening, right, when they have that first quarterly meeting of the year to set up the vision, how detailed should we go? Probably as detailed as possible of like, hey, here's how much money we want to make by this date. Here's how we're going to do that. I should be fully transparent about that, correct?
Yeah, you have to. This is why I remember when I was like, hey, you should be transparent about the money.
Yep.
Of what you're making and how you don't have to share everything. You don't have to share your salary or, every nook and cranny of profit, but you should be sharing the higher numbers. And the reason that's so
Gross
important.
revenue.
Yeah. How do you get the team working towards a goal if you don't share the number?
No, that makes total sense. Look, the last thing I'll say with this, and this all really applies to what we're going to get into right now about how we're going to make the show 100 times better, right? And we have to make it 1,000 times better to see that 100x return, right? Yeah. Which is the funny part. Last week, I came to you distraught, kind of not broken. I'm not broken, but just I didn't know where it was going. I felt lost and truthfully a little bit hopeless. With the help of you and with the help of Rocket Fuel, and honestly with Stella's help as well, and with just doing what we just did, the visualization, the planning, and actually going from here, putting everything in my head on paper and just going through it and doing the work, it gave me tunnel vision again. Now I see the light at the end of the tunnel and I'm crystal clear on it. Now I know that if I put these KPIs on paper, if I do everything you just described, when I have these meetings, when I set these revenue numbers, all I have to do is hit those daily tasks and measure it.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, my business will be doing 20 million, whatever it is, right? 20 million. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
And that's all I got to say. I went from one side of burnt out, done, hopeless in 1 week to okay, tunnel vision. And all it took was doing this, planning the vision, actually taking what's in here, putting it on paper and figuring it out. So with that said.
So two more things I want to add to this.
Oh, please.
I think it's crucial.
Please.
Number one is you're probably going to get some things wrong in this plan. You're going to get things wrong. So you start operating with that attitude and also give yourself that room with your team as well. Say, guys, here's my vision, but it's impossible for me to guess it 100% of the time correctly. So this is where I want to go. And I want to do it this year. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we can get there in 6 months, or maybe it takes 18 months, or maybe I'm way off. That's okay. So give yourself permission to be wrong, and then start working with your team on that same front. That creates that atmosphere to allow them to fail, try, repeat, right, and grow. That's number one. Number two, as you start to build this vision, Derrik, you want to start to build in incentives. So here's the mistake that I made. When we were making incentives for people, we didn't align the incentives, meaning we would give one department incentives for one kind of goal. We'd give another department for another kind of goal, and we give another department for another kind of goal. And the problem is that they could all hit their goal and the company could lose overall, right? Because it wasn't aligned. So you want to figure out what your baseline thing that you really want to get to, which is probably overall revenue. And then you want to tie in bonuses that trigger that all the way across. And you might get this wrong too, and that's okay. Incentives is hard to do.
Yeah.
So as you start to build out incentives for people, you tell them, hey, we're going to test this. Don't tell them you get this forever. Say, this is beta. I want this to incentivize you so we get this end result, but you want it to all be the same. So sales, marketing should be incentivized on the same thing as sales is, on the same thing that client success is, or account management, and all of that should be tied together across the board. That will make your life so much easier.
So let me ask you a stupid question, because when you say tied together across different departments, let me just put this in perspective. So I have my sales team, I have my video editing team. The way that I'm going to get them aligned is, hey, sales, here's the gross revenue you want to hit. Hey, editors, here's the gross revenue you want to hit. Sales, your role is, I need this many meetings set. That means I need this many messages sent. These are your KPIs. Video editors, I need this many videos made a day, but they need to be hitting this many views. Video editors, if you're hitting this many views consistently and keeping client retention high. And sales, if you're doing these KPIs and you're booking these meetings and we're closing these sales, you get X incentive. That way they're both aligned.
So you're actually not aligned with those. So that's the tricky part. Okay. Yeah, because you're not all tied into one same number. Right? So you want revenue. So whatever the most important. So for us is MRR. So let me tell you how we were doing it wrong. Yeah. We were incentivizing sales for locations, the number of locations sold. But sometimes that would bring a lot of MRR and sometimes it wouldn't. So we had to change that to align with client success, because client success was bonused on churn based off of MRR, and sales was incentivized on locations, number of locations. So we had to change. We're working on changing that so it's all MRR. Everybody's incentivized off of MRR because we're trying to increase that. Now you still have a KPI of views and all that. You can still have all those KPIs. Nothing wrong with that. But your bonus, where I'm paying you more money, is tied into the end result that I'm trying to
for the whole team. For the whole team. So it doesn't matter.
As much as possible, yes.
Got it.
Because that makes your job easier, Derek. Because think of it like a belt. That belt that you tie across, every time you miss a loop, it doesn't work properly. But if
that makes sense.
Every time, but if I put on a belt and it has no loops, it literally doesn't work.
And each loop is each department. That makes total sense. Yeah. And they're all tied around the most important goal, which for us is monthly recurring revenue. And then they each have their KPIs within that goal. But if we hit that monthly recurring revenue, everybody gets a bonus.
Everybody gets a bonus. Yeah. And different ways, right? There's different kinds of bonuses. Not everybody has to get a bonus. Like there's a lot to this, but you want it. So remember I told you earlier, like, okay, Derek, you have to learn how to be the best at what you do. Then once you learn how to be the best at what you do, you need to be an entrepreneur. Yep. And that's how to make money off of it and all those kind of things. That's the stage you're in right now. This kind of stuff is like leadership now that we're getting into, is like how to build a bonus plan, how to build a vision, how to structure one-on-ones that lead into construct good team meetings. And I'm here's the honest truth, Derek. I'm learning every single day about this stuff. Like still to this day, there's not a month or week that goes by that I don't go, that's super useful. I'm going to implement that into our overall of what we're trying to do as a company from a leadership standpoint.
Gary, I got to say, I mean, it blew my mind because I didn't even think about this incentive things, but it hit the nail on the head. Like it feels so right. Like I'm just thinking of going down this process and going to my sales team and my editors and saying, guys, when we hit these when you get these 3 new clients a month for the next 6 months to get to the 100,000 MRR, and I'm going to give each of you an extra 1,000, whatever it is. I'm making this up, but like I can see how much that would incentivize. I would be incentivized. Like I would be like, yeah, I'm going to send my 50 messages a day to get an extra $1,000 this month for that's huge. That's tremendous. So, man, I didn't even see that. So thank you for that wisdom as always. And, with that said, just bringing it back to the beginning of the episode, Gary, how are we going to make this show 1,000 times better to get 100x the reach for 2023?
That's a good question. So first of all, this is a very uncomfortable goal. So Derek asked me, do you want to, I said, let's grow this thing. I want to invest into it. I'll do what's necessary. And he said, do you want to 10x it, 100x it? And I was like, 100x it, right? Because even if we hit halfway, it still would be a win. But yeah, we're going to actually try to 100x our show. And that makes me uncomfortable because I don't have the answers to it. So there's a couple of different things. We talked about the structure of the show. We talked about the repackaging the content. And then I have a bonus one around another topic that I want to hit on too. So do you want to talk about first on the structure?
Yeah, I mean, before we dive into the structure, I'd love to update the audience so that they know what they're actually in for. Why we do the show, why we show up every week, why we invest into it, and why we're here to help the audience. And basically, bottom line, truly, we're here to help you. Yeah. I mean, that's what the show's always been about. Sometimes I sit here, it's 8 p.m. on a random Tuesday, and I'm like, wow, what's one of the most impactful things I do? And besides running my company, it's this show. Because the people that message me on Instagram, the people that I've met, the people that we've helped actually grow their agencies that DM us, and they're like, I always knew that eventually I would do it, but I didn't imagine doing it in this manner, and I couldn't be more grateful because it is one of the best feelings in the world for somebody to come to you and say, hey, Derek, just started my agency and landed my first client from the wisdom Gary shared on the 8-Figure Agency show. I sit there like, and I have to like hold back tears. Like, I'm like, whoa, like this person started something that's going to change their life from the hour that I spend every week with you, Gary, going through this show. And for that, I'm grateful. Bottom line is we're here to help you. And really,
and I'll add, I told Derrik, I don't have a financial, it's not financially advantageous for me to do this show or Derrik. Like it doesn't, Derrik's not getting a bunch of leads because agency owners watch it, and he doesn't work with agency owners. I don't have any channel that I'm making money off of it. This is just what I'm good at. It's the one thing in the world. I'm bad at like 100 million other things, but I've been good at growing our agency. So I look at it as a way to give back. So I want to give back on a larger scale. And so that's our main purpose behind this. We don't make money off of this. We don't have sponsors. So this is for you. The listener. So if you're listening to this right now, this is literally for you. So yeah, that's the foundation.
And piggybacking off of that, our goal in a year from today is to look back and say that when people think of the agency space and agency owners, they think of the 8-Figure Agency show. Yeah. How did they think of us? As the number one resource that documents how to build a successful agency by pinning together a soon-to-be successful entrepreneur and a successful entrepreneur and comparing everything that they're going through on a weekly basis. That's the goal. And we want to do it in an entertaining way where you come here each week to tune into the show and you're blown away by the value in it, by the tactical value, because no one's doing this. There's not a single show that gets as deep into the weeds and this is what our secret sauce is, that compares where I'm at with where you're at. Because oftentimes we're going through the same thing, just a different level. Because it's the Slinky effect. You've talked about this so many times.
Yeah, it's the same thing over and over and over again.
Over and over again.
It just gets more complex and harder as you go. Okay, so let's talk. So I have 4 things that we can do to make it better. So let's first talk about the show structure. So one thing, you literally just paused the show and took notes on this is what we need to do because I think this is going to be helpful to how we talk about what we talk about.
Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to show up each and every week here, and we're going to, first of all, discuss last episode. What did we talk about? What did Gary and I do to solve the problems we were experiencing in last episode? Did anything change? Did anything happen? That's going to be the first part of the episode. We're then going to talk about what we're going through, both of us, both Gary and I, in that present moment. What are we experiencing? What is our issues? How can we help each other? How can I be of value to Gary? How can Gary be of value to me?
Each other. We're interviewing each other more than Derrik interviewing me, which is that's kind of been the structure. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And then the last piece of that is what are we going to do going into next episode? How can we keep each other accountable? Basically, like a big therapy session to keep each other accountable. But
one
hopefully,
action item, right?
Exactly, like an action item that we could take away, right? So an action item that we can really take away, and be accountable for going into the next episode.
Now, have we decided how we're going to pick our topics? Is it going to be us each bringing things, or is it just going to be around last week to this week, last week to this week?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I think I truly don't know. I think we're going to have to cross the bridge when we get there.
So we're going to test it and see which ones hit harder, and then we'll go with that version.
Absolutely. So that's the structure. What was the next thing you wanted to get into?
Well, the second thing is going to be the content that comes from this. So shorts. So I'll let you take that away because that's your...
Yeah. I mean, literally our secret sauce and what my company does is our secret is short form video. Like we take the hottest stories and long form content and we turn it into the most punchiest and most viral short form content, period. And ironically enough, we've been slacking on the 8-Figure Agency show side. Full accountability on my end. My company's been being restructured a lot.
Have you ever heard the story about the cobbler's kids?
I have not.
Okay, so this is really important. This actually applies exactly to what you're describing.
Please.
So there's a story about the cobbler. The cobbler makes shoes, but the cobbler's kids never have shoes. Do you know why the cobbler's kid never has shoes?
No.
Because he's making shoes for other people all day. So
wow.
So every agency runs into this. Like agencies are like, I need to upgrade my website. And it's like, well, why don't you upgrade your website? You build websites. We're so busy with everybody else's. So the work that you're doing for yourself or for the shoes for your kids never get done because they always get pushed to the bottom of the list.
So if you are a video editor listening, watch this, then definitely hit me up on Instagram because I need your help for this show. If you want to work on this show, hit me up. But doubling down on the shorts for the show, doubling down, super important. And that's the big thing. Doubling down on shorts and really getting serious about TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube shorts because that's the biggest growth channel for the show by far.
Yeah. Okay, so I have 2 more other things. I didn't talk to you about them, so we're going to get a live react, okay? So
let's do it.
2 things. Number 1, doing SEO with our titles. So what I mean by that is in YouTube, there's people who are searching for specific topics all the time. So if we could just get what those topics are for around agencies, then we'll have evergreen videos that will continue to grow in the search engine. That's number one. What do you think about that?
Done.
Okay. Do I have to do anything, or you guys got
Well,
it?
we'll take care of it.
Okay,
We'll take care of it. So creating evergreen content, SEO optimized. See, these are the little things that we get into place. SEO optimized. For
title,
for
just in
content.
the titles, because here's what I'm thinking, Derrik. Like, if someone's going online, like how to start my agency, why wouldn't we have like 3 or 4 shows that pop up on that?
Of course.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then, okay. So then number 2 would be some kind of distribution channel for this. So like, we don't have an email list for 8-figure agency, and we don't have like a consistent distribution inside of our Discord. So I think if we did both of those, like join, but we'd have to figure, like, email might be a little much because we have to like figure that out. Like, what are we going to give them? But like the distribution in 8-figure, like, or in the Discord, if I just tag everybody and drop every episode and say, hey, what do you guys think? Like, it'll get 50 to 100 more views just on that alone.
Done. I love it. I honestly think, big picture, by this time next year, one of our goals should be to have an email newsletter with at least 1,000 people on it. I think that should be. I'm writing this down right now. This is exactly what I want to do. This show, actively building live in front of you guys. This is what fires me up. So by this time next year, have an email list with 1,000.
So what are we going to give away to people? What's valuable to people? Is it just transcribing this episode?
I think we can definitely be providing some resources. Like, we just recently gave people a free SOP template, which if you still want that, go watch this episode. It explains how to get that. But free, like, templates like that they can tactically use. Things that would have helped me on my journey is things like a vision planner. Like, it might seem simple, but like Stella helped me with this, like an org chart, a vision planner, like those types of templates. We can build those out, share that with the audience, and basically create like an agency starter kit where it's like, hey, here's everything you're going to need to start your agency. Here's step-by-step how to do it. I feel like that's more than valuable enough to, give away in emails.
100%. Yeah. Oh, so just to get that initial email, and then every week we send the video from there. So we just need to create what that initial thing is.
Absolutely. That lead magnet.
So I'm going to, so send me your list of things that because this is perfect, because you're like literally going through it right now, right? So here's everything you need to start your agency and to grow your agency. Send that list to me, and then I'll work on it with Eve to create the email and all that kind of stuff. And we'll add it to the website and whatnot.
Love it. Love it. Sorry.
But I need your list, though. I need your list of current things that you're working on.
That's the plan. We basically just built live in front of you guys. I'm fired up because you guys are going to hold us accountable to this. And this time next year, we want 1,000 people on our newsletter. We want 100x our growth. That means 10,000 people across YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, like all these, Stitcher. We want 10,000 people tuning into every single episode. I'm fired up, Gary. I love this. I'm a visionary, and I think you are too. And this is what we do best.
Now we need our actionable items that we're going to hold each other accountable to.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So here's one that I would like, and I don't have access to all of it, or else I would do it. I would love every Friday that we post the numbers in Slack of what we did the week before.
Every Friday, post the analytics for what we did the week before. Done.
So how many views did we have on YouTube total, right? And then like whatever's hot right then. So that way we can just see, like, that's killing, it's not killing, right? And we can change how we look at that. And then I think that I'm going to be responsible for creating the email. You're going to be responsible for the SEO, but you're going to send me some of the things that you need for the email. So
done.
Cool.
Guys, with that being said, we're going to make 8-Figure Agency Show the number one go-to show in the agency space, and it's not even close. I won't rest till it's done. If you guys enjoyed the show, consider leaving a like on the video. Can leave us a comment. Tell us how fired up you are. Tell us in the comments what your goal for 2023 is. Nobody engages in the comments much as we want them to. We want to hear from you. What can we do to improve? What's your thoughts? What's your feedback? If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. It's more helpful than anything else, truly, because it helps us climb in the ranks. And if you're not already and you're a fan of short-form content like everybody is because of our attention spans, check us out on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and literally everywhere because we're everywhere. Gary, any final thoughts?
Nope. Like, subscribe. See you next week.
Happy New Year, everybody. Let's crush.